You woke enveloped in the dry scent of hot sand and ancient stone, the dust-heavy air tickling your throat as your fingers brushed the rough, cracked surface of the silent tomb's wall. The cold floor beneath your feet was littered with tiny fragments of bone and fine sand, quietly gathering in forgotten corners. Your breath echoed softly, mingling with the distant sound of wind dragging through shadowed corridors, while a slow, steady weariness dulled your stiff muscles. Ahead, a quiver of arrows, fired by hidden mechanisms, seemed poised to spring again at any moment, and the metallic tang of aged iron in the air made your heart beat with an uncomfortable slowness. You knew that a single wrong touch could trigger traps designed to claim lives silently. Empty steps could mean a sentence to darkness. As dust slipped from an etched stone under your fingertips, with the repetitive slide of stones along the floor and the distant creak of ancient chains, cruel monotony promising that every gesture must be calculated, yet inevitably dragged along by the long hours. The weight of vigilance and waiting seeded a deep fatigue, a silent resignation as you braced yourself for the inevitable test of the labyrinth of death. The silence inside the pyramid had a different weight, a cold promise that clung to your spine before a single ray of sunlight pierced the outer world. The air shimmered faintly, pale as an early dawn would, though the sun itself was absent beyond the stony walls. Your eyes adjusted slowly, catching slight gradations of color in the dust, muted yellows, washed-out ochres, the faintest blush of a sun faded long ago. The faint scrape of sand shifting underfoot was the only sound, broken only by the distant echo of stone settling, or perhaps your own restrained, nearly imperceptible breath. Air carried a dry, musty fragrance, an ancient smokiness, like embers long died, time itself whispering through the hollow spaces. Your fingertips grazed the coarse texture of linen, worn thin and faded, heavy from age or sweat, clinging to your skin like a second layer. Each careful step revealed the brittle etchings on the walls, stories lost but felt in the rough stone beneath your touch. You thought briefly of the modern world, where a dead battery on a device could send a silent panic rippling through a quiet room. How strange that here, the absence of light itself, the quietest misstep, could mean the final end. The contrast pressed softly in your mind, how quickly comfort turns fragile. You moved forward in slow, measured steps, the echo of your footsteps a soft drum against stone corridors, winding deeper in shadow. Your hands brushed against carved surfaces, worn smooth in places, sharp in others, each texture a reminder of time's steady erosion. Shadows pooled beneath your feet, mingling with the ever-present dust that seemed to settle endlessly. For a brief moment, a flicker of hope rose as you spotted a slender beam of light falling across a distant chamber's floor, a sign that the outside world still reached here, somewhere. You imagined a quiet fire's warmth, shared in simpler times, comfort now replaced by the cold, creeping dread. Then, almost imperceptibly, the distant sounds shifted. The low hum of the wind ceased. A sudden silence settled that pressed against your eardrums. Somewhere beyond your vision, subtle movement stirred. A faint skittering or a breath held too long. The stillness deepened, wrapping around you like thick cloth. And in that frozen moment, the pyramid watched, waiting. Morpheu takes you completely. Quickly check if you're still subscribed. For some, the button vanished, and I don't want you to miss the next stories for sleep. Go ahead and leave a like, soft as a pillow. Tell me in the comments, where do you hear us from, and what time is it there? Your interaction keeps this little calm corner alive. Thanks for being part of it. You take a slow breath and press your palm once more against the cold stone, feeling the faint vibration beneath your fingers, as if the tomb itself were quietly alive, breathing alongside you. The thick silence stretches around you, heavy with the scent of dust and forgotten years, as your eyes sweep the dim corridor ahead, seeking that fragile thread of light that lured your steps deeper into the labyrinth's heart. Each footfall gathers scattered grains of sand that sift and scatter softly, dissolving into the shadows like whispers lost to time. Your throat, parched from the dry air, tightens just slightly, a reminder of the desert beyond the stone walls. The taste of ancient earth lingers faintly on your tongue, subtle and dry, as if the pyramid had swallowed the sun itself and memorized its warmth only to withhold it now. Every muscle in your body protests your measured, cautious movements, but the skeleton of determination holds firm, anchoring you against the creeping pull of exhaustion. Ahead, the faint gleam of a metal mechanism catches your eye, its sharp edges dulled by centuries. It lies silent, but you know its purpose all too well. A sentinel guarding secrets with cold, mechanical patience. You lower yourself slightly, careful not to disturb the dust hanging thick in the air, and your fingers trace the contours of a nearby panel worn smooth by the touch of countless predecessors. You pause, feeling the creep of sweat on your brow, the steady beat of your heart hammering a rhythm matched only by the faint sliding sound of unseen stones shifting somewhere deeper within the tomb. The corridor yawns wider, revealing a small antechamber bathed in a pale, almost otherworldly glow. The source of the light remains concealed, but it dances against the cracked walls in faded ochre and gold, like the remnants of a forgotten sun bleeding through cracks long sealed. You move forward, the rough floor pressing steady beneath your boots. Fragmented bone crunching faintly with each step, a quiet testament to those who once sought these halls and never returned. Your fingertips brush over detailed carvings, framing the entrance, delicate yet harsh lines, depicting figures caught mid-motion. Are indecipherable, splintered by time, yet you feel the weight of their silent warnings pressed deep into the grain of the limestone. Darkness pools beyond this chamber, the edges of your vision softening into an abyss that seems to watch you as closely as you watch it. A faint draft stirs momentarily, carrying with it a subtle shift in the dank scent of decay mingled with dust, a whisper of something shifting further within. You hold your breath, listening to the slow, grinding sound that trails like a soft sigh down the narrows. Your fingers find the worn edge of a loose stone, cool beneath the weight of your touch. Tentatively, you press, and the stone slides just a fraction, revealing a slender seam of darkness beyond. The air seeping from the gap is cooler, sharper, infused with something mineral and ancient that almost tastes like iron. Your skin prickles under its presence, gut narrowing with a silent alertness. Somewhere just beyond, a delicate noise breaks the thick stillness, a slow, measured drip of water against stone, the faintest echo in the vastness. You consider the path ahead, this narrow opening, just wide enough for a single step, leading into deeper unknowns. As you prepare to cross, your fingers linger on a carved symbol, barely visible in the low light. Its lines curl and twist, like the slow undulation of dying waves. You trace it again, a repetition to steady your mind against the slowly mounting tension, the quiet dread that creeps beneath every motion. The weight of centuries presses on you, a tactile presence in the still air. Stepping through the crevice, you feel the temperature shift immediately, cooler, damper, as if entering the tomb's lungs. Your boots sink slightly into mud mixed with sand, soft and reluctant. Is different here. The echo tight and sharp, like a whisper bouncing off stone walls that curve invisibly in the low light. Shadows bleed thick, pooling at the edges of your vision, yet you resist the urge to blink or turn away. The faint scent of earth and old water rises from beneath you, grounding you in this moment suspended between worlds. Your hands slide along the damp walls, the rough stone marked by eroded symbols and tiny fissures that trap the faintest stray of light, sparkling briefly before vanishing into an endless gray. The slow rhythm of your breath seems unnaturally loud in this enclosed space, mingling with the soft scrape of water trickling nearby. Each heartbeat thrusts a low murmur of adrenaline through your veins, not loud enough to startle, but persistent, as if the pyramid itself were counting, watching, waiting for something just out of sight. Movement flickers in the trembling edge of your vision, an indistinct shape that shifts and retreats like a shadow breathing. Your chest tightens, not with fear, but steady alertness, as you remind yourself that stillness is your ally here. Slow steps and quiet patience. you allow your gaze to linger on the dark recess ahead, gathering your resolve in the cold stillness. Then faintly, a distant, barely audible tone arises, like a faint hum resonating through the walls themselves. It vibrates softly, a slow, undulating pulse that you feel in your chest more than hear with your ears. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the vibrations settle around you, washing through every aching muscle, every tightened nerve. It feels ancient and enormous, a subtle heartbeat from deep beneath the stone that perhaps measures the lives passing through, weighing you against something timeless. When you open your eyes, the darkness seems thicker, more insistent, as if the tomb breathes in anticipation. And just beyond a jagged bend, a faint flicker of flame catches your eye, a glimmer in the endless night, something alive. Your body tenses, not from alarm, but from the slow, growing understanding that what lies ahead is no longer simply a test of endurance. It is something different, something waiting. Your next step hangs suspended on the edge of darkness, every sense sharpened and alert, as the pyramid waits in silence with you. You step deeper into the shrouded corridor, your boots pressing quietly into the damp stone floor, each step measured, deliberate. The air feels heavier here, thicker with the scent of ancient salt and slow decay, a waiting breath held tight beneath the earth. The darkness presses close, brushing against your skin like a cold, patient hand, inviting your senses to sharpen, to linger on every detail that faint light and shadow unveil. Your fingers slide again over the cold walls, tracing the faded grooves of centuries-old carvings. The stone beneath your touch is rough, yet worn smooth in places where countless hands must have hesitated before you. Each ridge, each crack seems to whisper stories you cannot hear, the echoes of those long vanished, held captive in stone and dust. You notice how the texture shifts subtly, crumbly here, almost slick with moisture there, reminding you of the slow but relentless seep of time and earth reclaiming their domain. A low murmur vibrates through the chamber, almost inaudible, a deep resonance that seems to pulse with the beat of your own heart. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the rhythm ebb and flow like a slow tide within this buried world. The damp chill wraps around your limbs as if the pyramid breathes alongside you, exhaling centuries of silence. Your breath comes in shallow bursts, small clouds fading in the stale air, while the faint drip of unseen water offers a steady, staccato counterpoint to the soft scraping of stone beneath your fingers. Ahead, the corridor narrows again, walls bending inward as if ushering you toward the unknown. You pause, letting the silence settle, the stillness brimming with waiting and warning. The faint glimmer of light you glimpsed before has disappeared, swallowed whole by shadows that gather dense and unyielding. The air here tastes faintly metallic, sharp enough to prick at the back of your tongue, carrying the weight of rusted traps and forgotten gears. Your footsteps slow, the sound of grinding stone now discernible, the subtle shift of stone slabs sliding ever so slightly somewhere deeper within the tomb. The noise is steady, slow, like a whispered warning. A breath held before a step is taken. You press your palm flat once more against the wall, feeling the cold seep through to your skin, the texture uneven, pocked with tiny pits that catch the faintest glimmer of your hesitant touch. As you move cautiously forward, your boots crunch lightly against brittle bone fragments, scattered like frozen memories on the ground. The air shifts again, colder now, carrying a whisper of something ancient and unspoken, a faint, sour scent, like relics long buried beneath the burial dust. Your breath catches in your throat, a slow tightening, not from fear, but the heavy weight of vigilance in a place where a single misstep means more than mere injury. A shadow shifts at the edge of your vision, just a flicker, a dance of darkness retreating like a wisp of smoke caught in an unseen breeze. Your body instinctively freezes, every muscle coiled, senses poised, on the fractional edge between stillness and movement. The silence around you thickens, as if the tomb itself leans in, watching your next step with endless patience. You reach out, fingers grazing the corner of a wide stone basin set into the floor, mottled with stains as faded as the walls. The basin's rim is rough, chipped by time, yet cold with the lingering touch of underground moisture. You lean closer, the scent of ancient mold rising faintly, a tangible presence in the stale air. Water isn't here anymore, but the memory of it clings, damp stone and the slow drip that lingers in hidden recesses. Your fingertips trace a narrow crack in the basin's side, the fragile line promising secrets deeper than the eye can see. From somewhere beyond, a soft rumble gently vibrates through the floor. It is not harsh or sudden, but slow, deliberate, a tremor as if the earth itself shifts beneath these ancient stones, a subtle movement that draws a thin thread of urgent alert through your calm. The pyramid watches, alive in its silence, a fortress of patient menace. Your ears catch the faint scrape of metal, blunt, aged steel, dragged just slightly along stone. It is distant, but unmistakable. Your gaze shifts toward where the sound seems to linger, along a narrow archway veiled in shadow. The faintest spark of flame flickers there, its orange light trembling gently like the last breath of a dying flame, casting long, wavering shadows that stretch and shrink like living things. It is both a promise and a warning, a beacon in the depths, urging you closer, or perhaps daring you to turn away. You take a steadying breath and move forward, the damp floor beneath shifting to softer earth, uneven and reluctant underfoot. Your hands grip the stone on either side, grounding you in the slow forward motion. Feeling the cool roughness give way briefly to smoother, colder surfaces. The changing textures are a silent map, each step a careful negotiation with shadows and dust. As you advance, the faint glow ahead flickers once more, revealing richer ochres and browns on the carved walls, faded but somehow vibrant in this low light, a scene of once celebrated yet now lost grandeur. Figures etched in stone seem trapped mid-motion, their expressions frozen in silence, watching you move through their eternal vigil. The pulse you felt moments before now seems to synchronize with an echo deep in your chest, steady and hypnotic. You become aware of every breath, every pulse of sensation, the rasp of your clothing against stone, the gritty taste of dust lingering in your mouth, the subtle shift in temperature as you pass deeper into the tomb's quiet heart. And then the corridor ends abruptly at a massive door, its surface richly adorned yet faded, carved with twisting serpentine patterns curling inward like a slow spiral. The edges are chipped and worn, but the door stands firm, an immovable threshold. You reach out, fingers tracing the cool metal handles, slick with age and the sheen of unseen moisture. The air hums faintly here, the vibration a low, steady insistence that fills the silence and threatens to draw every sense outward. As you press your palm to the door, a shudder ripples through the stone beneath, a soundless warning carried on the breath of the pyramid itself. And beyond the door, faint and almost imperceptible, a whisper stirs, like the slow unfurling of secrets long buried, waiting for you to listen. You press your palm once more against the door's cold metal, feeling the dampness slick beneath your fingertips, as if the heavy air itself had settled on the surface, holding centuries of stillness in its weight. The whispered vibration hums quietly through the stone, steady and insistent, matching the slow pulse that throbs in your chest. You hesitate, breath shallow, waiting for sensation to clarify the dark promise beyond. Then, ever so gently, your fingers curl around the edge of the handle, cool and unyielding, an anchor amid the uncertain shadows. With a cautious push, the door resists briefly, creaking softly as ancient hinges yield after an eternity of silence. The sound seems too loud in the heavy stillness, a grinding echo that slides along the walls and fades into the thick air. Beyond the threshold, a faint amber glow flickers, casting long, wavering shadows that breathe in rhythm with measured, sinking slightly into dust that clings like a worn cloak beneath your boots. The chamber opens slowly around you, a vaulted space lined with cracked reliefs, their ochres and reds dulled by age, but still telling their forgotten tales in the flickering light. Your eyes linger on a massive sarcophagus, its surface carved with twisting serpents and symbols curling like slow rivers flowing to an unseen ocean. The scent of old earth mingles with faint strands of something floral, dried blooms perhaps, or a memory pressed tight within the stone. The air here is cooler, carrying a dampness that settles in your lungs, slow and deliberate. You pause, fingertips brushing the cold stone beside you, tracing the subtle relief of ancient script worn smooth by time's patient hand. The walls seem to lean in, pressing close, their silence heavier than before. Somewhere deep in the vast silence, the faint sound of dripping water punctuates the quiet, the slow, steady heartbeat of the tomb. Stepping closer to the sarcophagus, your boots crunch softly over scattered bone fragments, brittle and forgotten. The distant scrape of shifting stone cautions you, a low grinding that feels like slow breath beneath the floor. You straighten slowly, every nerve taut, as your shadow flickers against the carved figures who seem frozen in eternal watchfulness. Your gaze catches a narrow aperture high above, where a slender shaft of light pierces the gloom. Dust motes float lazily in the beam, golden and slow, like embers caught in a forgotten fire. The quiet warmth offers a brief comfort in the cold gloom, a reminder that something beyond these walls still lives and breathes. You let your eyes rest on that beam, the only thread of the outside world stitching the darkness together. The chill slips into your bones again as you move to the far side of the chamber, where cracked tiles mark the floor, their edges chipped but symmetrical, like the slow decay of memory. You lower yourself carefully to inspect a narrow channel running beneath the stone, tight but unfaltering, carved deep enough to carry water long ago. The faint scent of damp earth rises swiftly here, thickening in the hollow air, pulling you deeper into the tomb's quiet vault. You press a hand against the ground, feeling the subtle tremor of settling stones echoing beneath the dust, a slow and deliberate shifting that holds time hostage. The eerie hum from before stirs faintly, wrapping around your limbs like a soft cloak, steady as a heartbeat, steady as the slow drip that sings in your ears. Rising, you trace the corridor beyond the sarcophagus's shadow, where the flickering flame you glimpsed earlier dances weakly against the jagged rock. The low glow throws uneven shapes upon rough walls, where once brilliant paintings dissolve into the dull ochres of stone and ruin. Your fingers brush a fallen shard of pottery, the edges smooth yet broken like whispered warnings from ages past. Pause there, breathing slow and even. You feel the pull of unseen eyes, the weight of countless watchers, long vanished, yet somehow present, woven into the very fibers of stone and dust. Your heart beats in harmony with the tomb's faint murmur, a slow rhythm that beckons you forward without haste, as if time itself were suspended, waiting for a signal you cannot yet read. Movement stirs in the corner of your vision, a shifting shadow, half seen, retreating into darkness, elusive like a breath held too long. You do not chase it. Stillness is your shield and your strategy. A low sigh drifts through the chamber, the dry rustle of settling dust, mingling with the steady drip, as if the tomb exhales softly around you. Your steps echo against stone, deliberate and slow, following the curve of the passage toward a narrower opening hidden behind collapsed debris. The air tightens, carrying a metallic tang that the tomb holds close, a scent dry and biting beneath your nostrils. Your hand presses again to the cool wall, fingers sifting through grains of sand that spill like silent memories to the floor. A faint vibration hums beneath your palm, a slow pulse that you feel in your fingertips, as if the tomb itself were breathing beneath your touch. You steady yourself, lips parting slightly in a breath so slow it almost stills time. The faint shimmer of light reveals an engraved keyhole, barely visible, swallowed by shadow and dust, a secret waiting for the gentlest pressure. You kneel carefully, allowing your fingers to circle the carvings nearby, a spiral pattern curling inward, like slow waves folding into themselves. The room's temperature dips again, coolness sliding through your bones, tightening and soothing all at once. The distant murmur grows quieter, leaving only the measured rhythm of your heartbeat and the soft drip of water overlapping with the scrape of stone shifting somewhere deeper. A slender, metallic glint catches your eye from the rubble, a fragile key, aged and almost lost, lying silent beside scattered bone. Your fingers close around it, cold metal resting heavily in your palm. A weight of promise or warning. Your breath freezes, the stillness thickening like settling dust after a breath held too long. And then, just beyond the key's iron chill, the faint flicker returns, a candle's flame, flickering steady in the encroaching dark. It pulses, once, twice, as if to a secret yet untold. Your fingers tighten over the key, and the tomb waits, silent, patient, ancient, as you prepare to unlock what lies hidden beyond the spiraling stones. You hold the key in your palm, the cold weight solid and strange against the faint tremor that pulses beneath your skin. Each breath you take is slow, measured, mingling with the damp air that clings insistently in this silent chamber. Your hand curls tighter around the iron, and the faint flicker of flame ahead beckons like a distant heartbeat, fragile and hesitant in the vast darkness. The door before you remains still, an ancient gate with carved serpents coiling lazily along its surface, their scales etched in fading ochres and reds. You press the metal key against the cool lock, fingertips brushing the faint carvings circling the keyhole, tracing symbols that feel both foreign and intimate under your touch. The air holds its breath alongside you. A delicate vibration hums softly from the walls, a slow pulse that seems to reach deep into your bones. With the gentlest turn, the lock gives way, not with a harsh click, but a whisper, as if the door itself sighs after centuries of silence. You push slowly, the creak sliding through the still air, then a heavy shudder as the door swings inward, unveiling a narrow passage bathed in the wavering glow of torchlight, its flames flickering like heartbeat echoes caught in stone. You step inside, the soles of your boots sinking softly into centuries-old dust, peppered with the faint crunch of scattered bone. The chamber breathes around you, its cool dampness settling over your skin like a fading mist. Walls rise, carved with delicate yet unyielding serpentine reliefs, curling slowly into the shadows above, their silent vigilance pressing inward, reminding you of forgotten eyes now watching from stone. The air here tastes heavy with ancient moisture, the coolness wrapping your lungs in quiet shrouds of damp earth and old decay. You feel the uneven floor beneath your feet, fragments of limestone and cracked pottery that crunch softly under careful steps. Fingers brushing again along rough stone reveal tiny fissures and etched hieroglyphs, fading into time's relentless march. Each gesture pulls you deeper, past the threshold of what was familiar and into the enveloping unknown. Ahead, the flickering light sways as the corridor narrows, drawing tighter like a slow breath held between final seconds. The pulse from the walls deepens, a muted hum that resonates not just in your ears, but vibrates quietly through the soles of your boots. It is a steady, rhythmic insistence, like the slow ticking of a forgotten clock, that ripple through the space. You sense a subtle shift in the air, a delicate brushing like a shadow brushing over stone. Something moves just beyond the fringe of your vision, ephemeral as smoke in a still room. Your breath catches, caught in the weave of ancient silence, and yet your posture does not falter. Patience is your ally here. Quiet steps, attentiveness unwinding slowly as your fingers trail along the increasingly slickened wall. Dampness pressing like cool velvet against cracked stone. The slow drip of water marks the passage of time itself, a steady staccato keeping pace with your pulse. The scent changes subtly, a faint coppery tinge rising beneath the musty decay. It mingles with the briny sweat of effort and the dry grit of grinding stone shifting somewhere deep below. You pause, the tunnel bending sharply, shadows pooling thicker and colder, folding into a cavernous hollow where the light dances uncertain. There in the gloom, Your fingers find the edges of a stone pedestal, worn smooth as though countless hands have rested here before yours. The surface feels cool and wet, with a film of dampness catching the flame's shimmer, scattering pale gold reflections like lost whispers of vanished suns. You linger, tracing the carved outlines, a spiral, winding inward endlessly, the same slow curl as the keyhole you left behind. The air hums quietly, a muted resonance that brushes your skin like breath, and you recognize the pulse now as a subtle invitation. You step back, boots stirring the dust softly, the scattered bones crunching faintly beneath weight suspended between urgency and caution. Your gaze flickers to the far end, where a new glow hesitates, flickering shadows cast by another fragile flame born on the edge of brittle air. Each movement slows, deliberate, soaked in the silence, heavy as time itself. A pale draft stirs, carrying a whisper of ancient embers smoldering low, so faint it might be a trick of the mind, yet real enough to tighten the muscles along your spine. The tomb exhales an old breath, stirring dust into miniature storms that drift and settle with quiet grace. You reach out, fingertips grazing broken pottery shards strewn in haphazard silence, feeling the sharp edges dull under careful touch. Fragments of forgotten lives calling softly in the stillness. Your heartbeat steadies, drawn outward by the slow rhythm humming beneath the stones. It is no longer a door or a lock, but a beginning, an invitation wrapped in cold stone and flickering flame. The air thickens, pressing close, filling your senses with the metallic tang that lingers just beneath the warmth of the torches. You sense that the next step will demand more than caution. It will require confronting what waits silently beyond this trembling light. Just as you prepare to move forward, a distant sound, a muted scrape, faint beyond reason, brushes against your ears. It is slow, deliberate, and unlike anything yet heard in these sunless halls. The shadows shudder in place. You hold your breath, and then, from the depths of darkness ahead, a low, almost imperceptible voice seems to rise, a whisper curling around the chamber, like smoke on slow wind, calling your name without sound, carrying a secret you are only beginning to understand. You step cautiously through the narrow passageway, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows that stretch and shrink across the cracked stone walls. The damp air weighs heavily against your skin, cool and insistent, pressing into your lungs as you draw slow, measured breaths. The scent of ancient moisture, mingled with the faintest hint of decay, clings to the stale atmosphere, reminding you that this tomb has held its secrets intact for countless years. Each step sinks slightly into centuries-old dust, mingled with fragments of brittle bone that crumble quietly beneath your careful weight. Your fingertips trace the rough reliefs, curling along the walls, serpents, waves, spirals, their carved lines worn, but still eloquent in the wavering light. Time has softened their edges, yet they pulse with a silent language you only partly understand. The faint hum, vibrating beneath the stone, echoes faintly in your chest, steady and slow as a heartbeat, marking the passage of moments, measured in shadows and echoes. You pause, feeling the vibration shift subtly, as if the tomb itself breathes alongside you, inhaling the weight of your presence. Near the bend, the corridor narrows further, the walls closing in until they seem to brush the sides of your body like slow, deliberate fingers. The uneven floor beneath is slick with dampness, cool mud interspersed with scattered limestone. Your boots glide softly over the surface, muffling your footsteps into hushed whispers that barely rise above the steady drip of unseen water pooling somewhere deep within the suffocating silence. The metallic tang sharpens, faint but unmistakable, prickling your nostrils and setting your senses alight with quiet alertness. Your hand slips down to the cool, waste stone at your side, fingers following faded glyphs etched faintly beneath centuries of dust and grime. The texture is uneven, pockets of erosion interspersed with smoother patches, as if the stone has exhaled layers of age in slow pulses. A shiver traces the length of your spine, not of fear, but of intense awareness, as the stillness thickens, pressing inward, folding over itself like slow smoke drifting through a sunless room. The dryness of your throat, matched by the metallic aftertaste left behind. Ahead, the torchlight trembles once more, revealing a widened chamber, half swallowed by shifting shadows. The flickering flames cast delicate patterns over jagged rocks and broken pottery strewn across the cracked floor. You reach out cautiously to touch a shard, its edges smooth yet cold beneath your skin, like the fragile remnants of forgotten promises. The scent here is heavier, a mingling of damp stone and resin, perhaps centuries-old incense, lingering stubbornly as if to ward off oblivion. You vein the quiet, steady rhythm of your own breath, mingling with the soft scrape of dust shifting underfoot and the intermittent drip punctuating the black stillness. Every sound becomes a bead strung along the taut thread of your vigilance. Echoes you chase and let slip away in a slow dance of patience. The chamber walls lean inward slightly. There, surfaces carved with indistinct figures frozen mid-motion, trapped in stone, but alive with the quiet tension of eternal watchfulness. From the far corner, the subtle movement flickers at the edge of your vision. A shadow, thin and hesitant, as if uncertain whether to reveal or vanish. Your chest tightens, steadying the small surge of adrenaline, and your limbs slow, instinctively. You remind yourself, this place is a waiting room, where stillness is your only shield, and every motion must honor the fragile balance between presence and disappearance. Your fingers find a stone pedestal near the center, its surface slick with moisture, scattering pale gold reflections of the torchlight. Tracing the spiral carved deep in its face, you notice the pattern winding always inward, folding upon itself like a slow breath held beneath here, aligning with the steady drip and the faint pulse humming beneath the stone. You lean closer, inhaling the thick mix of earth and resin, feeling the cool dampness seep into your bones. The chamber constricts, shadows pooling darker and heavier, the torchlight fighting a losing battle against the invading night. You hear it then, a soft, distant scrape, deliberate and hesitant, the faintest sound of something shifting in the depths beyond your sight, setting loose a thread of suspense that tightens your gut. Your shadow stretches long across the floor as you step toward the further edge, where a narrow stair carved into the rock descends into a deeper blackness. The air here cools suddenly, brushed like velvet against your skin, carrying with it the haunting scent of mineral and silence. The carved figures lining the walls seem to whisper secrets in indistinct murmurs, their stone eyes following your descent, holding the weight of countless forgotten watchers. Ye pause at the top stair, the worn edges slick with moisture, your breath slow and shallow. Fingertips hover over the stone, feeling the faint tremor beneath, as if the earth itself hesitates before its next slow movement. The vibration thrums steadily, deeper now, as if calling you forward with measured insistence. The faint flicker of flame ahead wavers, pulling your gaze and steadying your resolve. Then, a whisper threads through the stillness, not sound, but sensation, the slow, curling echo of a voice wrapped in stone and shadow. It carries no words, yet it coils around your senses, a hesitant call that brushes your mind and slides away, leaving behind a promise of revelation, or perhaps a warning, tangled in the weight of silence. Your fingers tighten around the cold stone railing, knuckles whitening as the air thickens and the flickering flames dim, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. You inhale the heavy breath of the tomb, steady and unmoving, before stepping off the edge and descending into the deep, pulsing heart of the unknown. You step into the narrowing stairwell, the worn stone cool and slightly damp beneath your fingertips. The air thickens, folding around you like a slow-moving tide, heavy with the scent of cold earth and lingering traces of ancient resin. Your breath slows, careful and quiet, merging with the soft, rhythmic drip that marks time in this subterranean stillness. Each step down presses softly into the stone, muffled by centuries of dust, and the weight of ages settles on your shoulders, steady and unyielding. The walls close in tighter, the carvings growing more intricate and worn, serpentine figures entwined with delicate symbols curling inward in endless spirals. The faint pulse beneath your feet hums deeper here, a quiet resonance that seems to echo your own heartbeat, slow and unwavering. You follow each curve of the stone, your fingers tracing the fragile reliefs, feeling the grooves smooth and sharp, like faded whispers pressed in limestone. Time seems to stretch, each moment lingering, textured with the cold whisper of forgotten history. A pale light dances just ahead, flickering uncertainly, casting long shadows that lunge and retreat in subtle waves. The glow is fragile, an ember in the depths, illuminating splintered pottery shards and fragile bones scattered like scattered memories beneath worn feet. The air tastes of wet stone and something sharper, metallic, like the faintest trace of rusting iron caught between breaths. You pause, the silence profound, broken only by the slow, steady drip and your own restrained breathing, a hushed harmony with the tomb's patient vigil. Your eyes adjust as you reach the base of the steps, where the passage opens into a chamber vast and muted, walls veined with cracks that bleed slow shadows across fragments of faded ochre. Here the air grows cooler still, carrying a dampness that seeps into your lungs, thick with the scent of moss and whispered decay. Your feet sink lightly in patches of silt and mud, each careful step stirring grains of forgotten dust into drifting veils around fractured pillars, half swallowed by time's relentless hunger. The faint hum beneath your boots deepens, vibrating softly enough to feel, yet silent enough to seem part of the tomb itself, a secret rhythm keeping watch over this hidden sanctum. You reach out, fingertips sliding over the uneven floor, tracing the etched symbols worn to near smoothness, lines that twist back upon themselves in endless spirals and knots. Your skin prickles beneath your touch, as if awakened by the stone's memory, a slow shiver crawling through the marrow of your bones. A slender arc of muted orange flickers at the far side of the chamber, where a solitary brazier, long unlit, offers a lingering warmth, barely perceptible, yet a tether to something more than cold stone. The smokeless flame dances gently, casting uneven light that reveals spectral shapes frozen mid-motion in the crumbling murals, their painted faces pale and unreadable, but charged with a silent urgency. You watch the play of fire and shadow, the fragile warmth pulsing softly against the lingering chill that creeps like a slow tide through the chamber. Each breath you take is measured, the dry taste of dust and earth mingling with the subtle trace of incense long vanished. Your hands brush against a fallen shard of pottery near your feet, edges smooth but incomplete, a silent relic of lives moved quickly through these halls, now caught in stone in silence. The echo of your footsteps is nearly swallowed by the creeping quiet, fragments crunching softly beneath your careful tread, a rhythmic counterpoint to the slow pulse vibrating beneath the stone. A faint rustle brushes the edge of your hearing, as if the tomb exhales softly, stirring loose particles in a dance of shadows. Your heart responds with a measured quickening, alert but anchored, your every sense attuned to the delicate balance between movement and stillness. You sense the weight of unseen eyes, watching from silent niches beyond the flickering glow. Ancient sentinels carved into the fabric of this underworld, their gaze woven into every fissure and worn relief. The chamber narrows abruptly, walls leaning inward, enclosing the space like the slow closing of a lid. Your eyes are drawn to a heavy stone archway, carved with spirals that curl inward, mirroring the worn carvings traced by your fingers. The pulse beneath your feet accelerates, subtle at first, then gathering, a steady thrum that resonates with the beat of your heart. A silent summons, slow and patient, urging you forward. You step through the arch into a passage cloaked in darkness and silence, the air shifting to cool dampness, dense and palpable. The stone floor is slick here, mottled with moss and the faint shimmer of moisture. Each step careful and deliberate. Your hands grip the rough walls, grounding you, tracing the cool, uneven surfaces as you navigate deeper into the labyrinth's embrace. The faint flicker of flame dances just out of reach, barely aglow against the shadows that gather thick and unyielding. A distant, slow scrape, soft but certain, slides along the stone somewhere ahead, stirring the silence with a whispered warning. Your breath catches and steadies anticipation. The vibration beneath your feet grows stronger, a low, resonant pulse that fills the narrow corridor like a heartbeat echoing in stone. Then, just beyond a jagged bend, a sudden breath of air brushes past you, cooler and sharper, carrying with it a faint metallic scent like rust and old springs. Your fingers falter on the rough stone, the slow drip of water echoing behind it, a steady metronome marking the approach of something unseen. The darkness ahead swells, seeming to draw itself tight, waiting. Your pulse sharpens, senses flaring into an acute stillness. The tomb's silent watch stretches before you, vast and patient. In that suspended moment, the shadow at the corner of your vision shifts again, more deliberate this time, longer, as if beckoning. You take a slow step forward, an altar carved with the same spiraling patterns you traced moments before. The chamber hums, a deep vibration that seems to gather in the air like a slow breath released, waiting. And there, etched into the altar's cold surface, a single word appears, glowing faintly beneath your touch. A word you do not know, but feel deep within your bones. The silence waits for your answer. You descend slowly into the hollow chamber, your fingers still tasting the cool dampness pressed into the worn stone railing as you steady yourself on the first step. The air thickens around you, heavy, like velvet soaked in shadow, carrying the faint but insistent scent of earth turned cold and old. Each measured footfall sinks quietly into the accreting dust, a soft shuffle that blends with the distant, rhythmic drip of water echoing somewhere behind unseen walls. The silence stretches long, pressing against your eardrums, thick with centuries of stillness and waiting. Tracing the edges of the steps, your touch brushes against the tiny cracks and fissures, their depths catching the scant light in liquid angles that seem almost to pulse. The carved walls bend inward, the serpentine reliefs curling slowly, endless spirals tightening with time until they merge with the gloom above. Dust motes pirouette lazily in the fragile amber glow of the flickering torchlight you carry. Their ephemeral dance, a quiet companion to your slow progress. A subtle hum hums beneath your boots now, quieter than the steady beat of your heart, but no less present, a lurking rhythm that seems to throb in tandem with the stone, a breath held in the belly of the tomb. The dampness clings to your lungs, thick and slow, while the metallic tang weaves its steady way around your nostrils, a quiet reminder of old mechanisms, rusted and patient, waiting beneath layers of dust. Your steps spill softly forward into the chamber's floor, rough-hewn and uneven, mottled with shattered pottery and bone fragments that crumble faintly beneath your careful tread. The scent there deepens, a blend of cold stone, forgotten incense, and something faintly metallic, like the sharp edge of old iron pressed tight against your tongue. Your breath catches, slower now. Each inhale a subtle mix of dry dust and chill moisture rising from cracks hidden deep below. Your gaze follows the wall's spiral carvings, the winding serpents frozen in eternal vigilance, their faded ochres whispering fragments of stories you cannot grasp. Carved faces peer from the stone, their eyes hollow, yet piercing, as if watching your every move with sleep-heavy patience. You sense a weight pressing into the air. Something into a corridor, smeared with dark shadows and heavier damp. A shallow draft brushes across your skin, a cool breath drifting softly, carrying whispers of time's slow decay that ripple through the walls like distant sighs. You slow to a crawl, hand trailing once again along the slick stone, wet with lingering moisture that shivers under your touch like a breath held too long. The flicker ahead wavers as well, the torchlight struggling to hold firm against the gathering dark. You pause beneath jagged cracks, where faint shafts of brittle light bleed through, dust motes floating like slumbering embers caught in a forgotten blaze. The air tastes faintly sour now, the whisper of rust mingling with earth dampened by long-faded waters, an echo of life buried beneath the stone and silence. A faint scraping sound brushes the edges of your hearing, slow, deliberate, the whisper of metal sliding reluctantly against stone. The sound coils and fades, leaving behind a shudder in the air that seems to pulse with your quickening breath. You hold perfectly still, muscles tuned tight. Each second stretched thin like a fragile thread spun at the tomb's mercy. Ahead, a narrow stair wells into deeper shadow, the stones chipped and slick from unseen damp. The pulse beneath your feet deepens, vibrating gently, a slow and steady thrum that folds softly against your heartbeat. Fingers grazing the cold wall, you trace once more the spiral patterns curling in on themselves. A silent language pressed into limestone, a slow breath held beneath the weight of centuries. Your boots shift carefully, scattering fine dust that slips between cracks like forgotten memories, sifting into oblivion. With each step downward, the damp grows cooler, the air filling with the scent of mineral and ancient mold. Swallows sound whole. The faint flicker of flame ahead dances weak and hesitant, casting distorted shadows that stretch and recoil like restless watchers. The low rumble of stone grinding somewhere below softens again, a breath drawn long and slow, steady and deliberate as the pulse that now almost sings in your veins. The chamber constricts, pressing close about you in muted hues of ochre and gray, stitched with faint veins of rust-red stains bleeding from the walls. Cracks. Your breath rather than sound fills the space, measured, drawn, held, while the faint drip of water punctuates the vast quiet like falling beads of time. As you near the source of the light, a stone altar emerges, its surface slick and cool beneath your fingers. Around it, the carved spirals repeat endlessly, whirling into themselves as if folding away into eternity. The flame atop it flickers sharply, a bright pulse in. The gathering darkness that tugs at the edges of your vision, drawing your gaze towards something just beyond. A subtle chill slips through your skin, tightening and releasing in slow waves, tightening the weave of quiet anticipation wrapped around your chest. Your eyes widen at the faint glowing word etched into the altar's weathered stone. A delicate shimmer, barely perceptible, woven like a thread of light into the ancient carvings. It glows faintly beneath your touch, cold and alive, whispering a secret locked deep within your bones. The syllables elude your understanding, yet stir something primal, a call coiled beneath centuries, waiting. The flame falters once, flickering like a breath held tight, and the pulse beneath your feet quickens, throbbing softly against stone and silence, as if the tomb itself draws its breath, waiting for your next move. Beyond the altar, the darkness folds inward, thick and immense, holding itself like a secret yet to be spoken. You hesitate on the edge, senses sharpened in the stillness that stretches between heartbeats, knowing that whatever comes next will be unlike the slow quiet of the tomb so far. The air ripples faintly, carrying a susurrus just beyond hearing, a murmur curling around shadows, tethered to a presence unseen, but deeply felt. And as your hand reaches toward the glowing word once more, a cold whisper coils through the chamber, a breath of stone and shadow that seems to speak your name without sound, beckoning you forward, deeper still. You reach out, your fingers resting gently upon the glowing word etched upon the cold altar, an ancient script that hums beneath your touch, steady and quiet like a whispered heartbeat. The stone feels alive, not in a sudden burst, but as if pulsing with the slow passage of time itself, a rhythm older than memory, unfolding just for you in this sunless cradle beneath the desert sands. For a long moment, the breath of the tomb seems to hold, the silence folding over you like a soft cloak. The faint flicker of flame nearby dances, casting shadows that stretch and curl with the quiet patience of centuries. You sense not peril now, but an invitation, an acknowledgement of the journey survived, the trials endured, and the secrets uncovered. With careful hands, you trace the spiraled carvings once more, letting your touch map the silent story winding inward, folding back on itself like the slow turning of the earth. The pulse beneath your feet feels less insistent now, as if the tomb itself is settling, exhaling the weight of its own age. The shadows soften, drawn back by an unseen tide. Stepping back, you take in the quiet expanse of the chamber. Around you, the flickering braziers casting a gentle warmth, the cracked murals whispering stories of long-gone pharaohs and forgotten guardians. The scent of earth and resin lingers, mingling with the subtle coldness that settles comfortably against your skin. Here, in this sanctuary carved from stone and silence, the desert's breath feels distant yet present, a lullaby of fading heat and endless sand beyond the thick walls. Your footsteps trace a slow circle around the altar, each step stirring faint grains of dust that drift softly, scattering like whispered memories returning to rest. The brittle bones beneath your boots crunch gently, a reminder of those who came before, the seekers and the watchers, now part of this ancient stillness. Yet the atmosphere is not heavy with mourning, but quiet reverence. As your gaze drifts higher, the carvings above catch the firelight, serpents and spirals moving in endless loops, as if locked in a slow dance of eternity. The flickering shadows embrace this dance, weaving a tapestry of light and dark that feels less like a waiting threat and more like the gentle closing of a story told long ago. You breathe in deeply, the dry, musty scent of dust mingled with a trace of lingering incense, soothing your senses like a balm. Your pulse slows, settling beside the tomb's timeless rhythm. There is peace here, fragile and profound, a calm reached not by escape, but by endurance and discovery. The narrow passage behind you fades softly into darkness, the air still and cool, untouched but for a whisper of movement far away, a shadow folding back into silence. The slow drip of water ceases its song, leaving only the heartbeat of the stone beneath your feet. You double your palm against the altar's surface, one last time, a silent farewell, and a quiet gratitude passing between you and this vast, patient monument. The cold stone is steady beneath your touch, grounding you as the echo of whispered names and muted histories settle around you. Like a blanket folded neatly at journey's end. Turning slowly, you move toward the stairwell that led you down, each measured step lighter now, carrying the weight of answered questions and secrets given shape. The once imposing labyrinth seems more like a gentle embrace, its folds and shadows softened by the understanding that comes with reaching the end. Emerging finally into the faint warmth of dawn, beyond the heavy stone, you find yourself greeted by the sharp, dry air of the desert morning, the scent of sun-baked sand rising like a quiet hymn. The world outside feels oddly new, though it has always been waiting patiently, untouched by your absence. Above you, the sky stretches vast and pale, the first light of day spreading slowly like a sigh across the horizon. The heavy silence of the tomb has given way to a fragile chorus, the soft rustle of wind through distant grasses, the gentle cry of awakening birds. You pause, letting the stillness of this moment settle deep into your bones. Your breath evens with the morning calm, the tension and weariness worn smooth like a stone shaped by time. In the distance, sunlight shimmers off the shifting dunes, their curves like frozen waves holding stories of their own, endless and patient. You stand at the threshold of two worlds, the embracing silence behind and the waking day ahead. A small smile touches your lips, quiet and knowing, as if sharing a secret with the desert itself. A secret wrapped in stone and shadow, whispered in dust and silence, now carried gently with you into the light. The journey concludes not with a grand flourish, but with the soft closing of a door long left ajar. As you take your first step forward across the sands, the echo of the tomb's heartbeat lingers faintly in your memory, the slow, steady rhythm of time waiting beneath the surface of all things. And with it, a feeling resurfaces, the profound calm of having faced the unknown and returned, carrying the stillness of the ancient world within. The sun rises fully now, warm and steady. Your shadow stretches long behind you, fading softly into the sand. The labyrinth is behind, folded silently back into darkness. Ahead lies the vastness of open sky and endless horizon, a promise as old as the earth itself. You breathe out slowly and let the weight of silence fall away. The story ends here, in the gentle quiet of a dawn made new.